Hey, third graders, we're going to talk today about how good readers use transitions. And they might be words, they might be phrases. And a transition will kind of build a bridge, kind of connect things together. That's the way I like to think about it. And I need you to copy this page down in your writer's notebook so that you can refer to it. All right, so we're going to talk about it and then you'll be able to pause the video. So for our introduction, right, that's our top triangle. Once you talk about some facts, some things that you know, and you go to make or write your opinion statement, you might begin it using this phrase, in my opinion, or I think, or I feel, possibly I believe. So those might be some phrases that you would use to kind of lead your reader into what your opinion is. Okay, you might think of different ones that I don't have on my list, and that's fine. You'll notice that I put in the middle, right, our rectangles, right, because we're going to have 3 rectangles, and they're each going to have reasons, a reason and an example, right, and we're going to kind of expand on that a little bit today. So I put the rectangles. For reasons, you might start out by saying first, or to start, to begin with. Another reason, right? You wouldn't say that with your first reason, but maybe your next one. One last reason, most importantly, or finally. So think about some of these you would use in your first rectangle, some you might use in your second rectangle, and some you would use for your last rectangle, right? Talking about just your reasons. But when you give your example, you might say, for example, for instance, in fact, or even additionally. So that's kind of stretching out the information. When we get to our conclusion, that's our ending, that's our bottom triangle. You might say something like in conclusion, or as you can see, to sum it up, or to summarize. Those are some things that kind of wrap up your letter, right? That would be your 5th paragraph. So this would be your first paragraph. You would use these in your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th paragraph. And then this would be your 5th and final paragraph. So I want you to pause the video, and I want you to copy this chart down so that you have some examples, right? And at the top it says, good readers use transitions. So I want to make sure that you copy that down so that you've got something to go by. All right, so pause it now, and then we're going to take a look at a student example, and we're going to take a look at mine, how I got started. So here's a student example, and it's kind of hard to read because the font is orange, but this is the one that we read a couple weeks ago, talking about how this student wants a pet, right? They want to have a cat. So I just wanted to point out how they used my first reason, they used my second reason, and they used my third reason. So they used transition words in there, right? They're all the same. It's fine. I bet they could maybe mix it up a little bit. So my suggestion to you is if you say my first reason, then don't say second and third. Try to say something a little bit different. Use something off of this list. Ask a grown-up if they have some suggestions for you, right? But that's something that needs to be included. It's that kind of bridge from your introduction to your first reason. And then from your first reason, right, to start a different reason. You give another perspective of why you think the way you think. All right. So here is what I did to get my letter started. And when you start your sloppy copy, okay, that's what I like to call our draft. We're going to skip lines on our sloppy copy. That's because you might go back and change things. You might add things. You might want to add some adjectives, change some words. I also wrote the word date, and I put a box around it just to remind myself that on my final copy, I'm going to put the current date, right? If I were to put today's date, that's not actually when I'm going to send it. So I just put that there as a reminder to myself that I need to make sure I change the date, all right? Now, I told you what I was going to be writing about. Here's my power organizer that we've looked at, right? And we talked about how I believe that there should be a federal law, federal meaning for the whole country. Well, who's in charge of the whole country? The president is, right? So I asked you to think about who I might be writing to. So here is my greeting, right? Friendly letter has the date. And then here's my greeting, Dear President Biden. Now, when I start my first paragraph, I want to indent. Remember, that's when I push that first word of my paragraph in a little bit. I like to think of it as 2 fingers over. But today what I did is I drew my top triangle to remind myself that this is the part that I'm using to write. Now you'll notice I've only got a couple sentences, right? This is a whole page. I stretched it out. I added things, and I think you'll be able to see that. So by doing this, by putting my shape there, I'm guaranteeing myself that I'm indenting. When I do my final copy, I'm not going to put that shape there, but I'm still going to leave that space to show this thought, because every time I change my thought, that's when I have that new paragraph. Okay, and I want my eyes to tell my brain this is a new thought. So here we go. Dear President Biden, over 25 million people in the United States have contracted COVID-19, and sadly, almost 450,000 people lost their battle with the virus. Remember, these are facts. I'm just stating what I know. Here's a little bit more. This was not on my Power Organizer, but I added this. Stores and restaurants are closing down, and students are forced to learn in new environments and facing many challenges. Right? That's you. As a public school teacher, it is my belief that the U.S. should have a federal law requiring people to properly wear face masks in public places. Here is my opinion statement, right? It is my belief. Okay, and I started out by saying that I was a teacher. Okay, I could leave that part out and start with a capital letter right here. It is my belief that the U.S. should have a federal law requiring people to properly wear face masks in public places. I put that word properly in there because I see a lot of people wear their mask down around their chin. I see them wear it under their nose. That's not the correct way to wear a mask. It needs to cover your nose and your mouth, because that's where, right, germs can get into your body, and that's where they can come out, right? You can pass them by breathing or sneezing on somebody else, right? So I wanted to put that word properly in there. So that's my first paragraph, my introduction, my top triangle. Okay, it's a lot longer than it looks on my Power Organizer, right? Because I put some thought into it and I added some extra things just like you'll do. Okay, so there's my top triangle. Here is my first reason. Here's my transition. First of all, that's the way I started it. And you'll notice I put that shape right in there so that I could remind myself, right? And I think what I'm going to do now too is put a number 1, because this is my first reason. First of all, the virus spreads quickly and easily without a mask. Okay? Do you notice? I put that caret right there because I added quickly and easily after I had already written it. I went back and reread it and decided I wanted to add that in. That's why it's important to skip lines on our sloppy copy, right? So that we've got space to go back and make it better. This is how we talked about revising, right? Only I can revise and make it better. People can inhale the germs if their nose and mouth aren't covered. Those who are sick are passing the extremely contagious virus to others if they don't take precautions like wearing a mask. If everyone wore a mask, the chance of spreading the disease would drop dramatically and lives could be spared. Okay, so here was my transition phrase, first of all. This is my reason, right? Viruses can spread easy without a mask, right? Here's my proof. Here's what happens. This is my example, right? How people can pass it from one to another if they're not wearing a mask. So there's my first reason. Here's my second reason. We're going to read this paragraph and then we're going to stop. Okay? So my first transition phrase was first of all, and now I'm using the word secondly. Secondly, people unknowingly spread germs. That's the second reason I believe people should wear a mask. Many people don't have any symptoms at all. They are putting others at risk without even meaning to. Often, a person will show symptoms, but the days leading up are when they are most contagious, and they have already exposed those around them. So think about people at work, people at the grocery store, right? People shopping that are not wearing their mask at all or not wearing it properly, and they don't even know that they're sick because they don't have any symptoms. Or maybe they feel sick 2 or 3 days later, but it's already too late at that point. Okay, here's something I want to point out. This is called a rebuttal. This is when you think about the opposing opinion, right? You want to kind of put yourself in somebody's shoes who might think, well, they kind of want to debate you or argue with you about that. Here's what I added. You might be thinking that no one would purposely get others sick, and I think that's true. But imagine if everyone wore masks and we didn't have to worry or wonder. Right? Wouldn't that be nice if it was just a given that everybody had to properly wear that mask whenever they were in public? We wouldn't be so worried about the people that we were around, right? So you want to also be thinking about the opposite opinion, okay? So remember, in this one, okay, I know you aren't a big fan of cats. I know you like dogs, but here are some reasons you might change your mind of saying no to my letter. Hopefully, what I'm trying to say is, in my opinion, we should have a cat. So this person is saying, hey, I know you're not a fan of cats. I know you like dogs, but hopefully I can change your mind, right? They're trying to kind of think about how the other person thinks, the person you're trying to persuade or you're trying to convince, all right? So look at this. I've only written 1 paragraph of my letter, 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs of my letter, right? This is my sloppy copy. I'm skipping lines so I can go back and make it even better, right? I did that a couple times. You saw that over here. Instead of just saying, first of all, the virus spreads easily without a mask, I went back and said quickly and easily, because it's quick. It doesn't take long for somebody else to catch germs, right? You've been around somebody in the past, I'm sure, who had a cold or had the flu, and then you got it, right? Or somebody in your family or your friend got it. So germs are passed quickly, right? Not just easily. So I added that. I'm sure I'll go back and I'll change some words, and I want to give myself space to do that. Are you going to skip lines on your final draft or your final copy, your published letter that you're going to send or give? No, only on your sloppy copy, okay? So today, your job is to send a photo of this page in your writer's notebook that you've copied it down so that you have some examples to use in your letter, right? And if you can come up with more, or somebody in your house has one to share, then add it to the list and share it with your class, right? Be helpful that way, and we can make our list grow even more, all right? So after you do that, if you're ready to get started on your sloppy copy, right, go for it. Give it a shot. Remember to skip lines. You don't have to send a picture of your sloppy copy yet, but you do have to send a picture of how good readers use transitions.